And thanks to this conference. This has been a great conference. I think we all feel that way, and especially thanks to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for making it possible for me to be here at this conference and also to be able to work on this idea that I had a long time ago for toilets, and we're working on it in Haiti, but the idea is to have it be able to work in a lot of different places, including emergencies, which is one of the aspects that we want to look at. We started in Haiti because I had experience there already from the 2010 earthquake. Of course, pictures a friend of mine, Richmond Arquette, took these, and you can see these people are so resilient, and yet they live in such appalling conditions. So it's a remarkable place to work. It's a challenging place to work, but it's good. We like working there. It's very hot. That wears on you after a while. We've been there all summer installing these toilets with the community. We basically built them with the community from the ground up, all the tools and skills necessary. And so I'm going to go through and talk about the toilets, the physical structure, and then I'm going to talk about the process. Because there's kind of two aspects to what we feel is innovative in our approach. Notice that this is an interesting graffiti. This was right after the earthquake. Notice that they don't ask for toilets. And it's interesting because people ask for the things that they need that come from without. But when it comes right down to it, if you don't have a toilet, you're just going to go. You're going to open defecate. And it's interesting that many of us, I don't think, would be in a similar situation. We wouldn't necessarily be asking for toilets. Of course, we know how important it is with some of these issues here, and cholera is just one of the many. It's getting a lot of attention, but there's so many diarrheal diseases in places like this where you have high density. So our well, here's just a picture of it. I'll come back and talk a little more about the design. And basically, we're using enhanced ventilation. So the top of this plenum is 15 feet off the ground. So you have air moving over, and you get this draw that comes up. The air comes in the intakes, which is the support bin of the compost. That's where the composting is happening, or just feces desiccation, depending on how it's set up. It can work in both ways. And that air is drawn through, and we're just really maximizing the amount of airflow we can pull through this. And part of that is because of the way we build the toilet block, which I'll talk about in just a bit. So, but the overall goals, as we know from the Gates Challenge, has been to be really innovative and out of the box, and really try something that you only dream up at 2 o'clock in the morning, which is what I do most of the time. I wanted the structure to be low cost and robust, because a lot of the structures that we had seen, that we wanted to do our particular process in, they were just too expensive and they were too immobile. And I wanted something that we could go into an emergency and sort of set these up out of a kit even. As it's turned out, we're working in development as well. There's a crossover there. So one of the areas that I chose to really focus on was flooded areas and high water table. In the community that we're working in, just since Saturday when I got on the plane, we just got word that 5 more houses got washed down the river. And this same community had to withstand Tropical Storm Isaac, which blew down most of their plantain and banana trees, which was their source of income. So there's some people living in some very precarious situations as far as natural disaster is concerned. Fortunately, I have to say, we're really grateful our toilets have held up through all this, and it's almost trivial to say that in light of the fact that people are losing their houses right in the same area. But we have to keep working on this. So my thing has been to make sure that no excrete is coming in contact with the ground. Urine, feces, everything is contained, it's dealt with, it does not come in contact with the ground until it's become something that's safe and usable. As has been said by many people at this conference, this social aspect of sanitation, which is everything from awareness raising to designing and working with the communities, this is what we've done, and this is why we went and lived there. We've lived there all summer, and a lot of the conversations about shit happen, you know, on your porch late at night. It's not something you can come in your SUV and have a controlled discussion and then go back to the hotel. We had to get to know these people and really find out why they felt the way they did about stuff. And so we were glad to be able to live in that community. Just a few things about the design now. So the idea that I have is to take, in the US we have billboards everywhere, and they're huge. And they're made out of a really highly engineered material. It's a reinforced flex PVC. It has an advertisement on one side, and then it's either black or white on the other side. And so we don't show the advertisement. That's the only requirement when you reuse this stuff. And then we use either the white side or the black side, depending on what we're trying to do. White to try to keep the temperature down, and black on this ventilation plenum to help induce thermal flow. So you have this really inexpensive material and then basically a lumber frame, and then you do this tension fabric structure. And it's not a tent. The walls don't flap around in the wind. It behaves like a very taut structure. And that's what we make sure that we keep them like that. The fact that it's inexpensive, the reason I was drawn to designing this is because I wanted to be able to play around with things like a lot of airflow for feces desiccation, or really being able to really make sure there's no odors, because you're letting the odors are going out at 15 feet above the ground. So this is what drew me back into my construction days. Is I need a really inexpensive structure that I can change the design if I need to, and the existing things that I saw were not doing that. So, for instance, the ventilation using this large central plenum, we get huge airflow. I've been testing it with my handheld anemometer, and we get the aperture is this big around, it's 18 inches across, and you're getting a nice flow roughly about this speed, a couple of feet per second, and that moves a lot of air when it's that wide. The toilet array itself sort of looks like something like the lunar module, but the stairs come out and actually stabilize the thing physically. The process can be urine diversion or everything in together. We did everything in together in Haiti because it was just too hot to try to talk to people about urine diversion along with every other thing that we were dealing with. So we said, we're going to just keep it simple. We've already done composting there. We knew that worked. And so we kept it all in together. But the urine diversion part is something that the same structure will accommodate. We're just going to do that in a separate step. And I want to point out, too, that the structure, if somebody comes to me and says, I have my own process, can you give me a toilet block? Yes, that's the other part of what we want to do. And I've had those conversations already with several people. I'll make a structure that works and with a door that works and it doesn't fall over in the wind and so on. And you can put in there whatever process you want. This was the original idea. I'm just showing this first. This is very boxy and strange, and I thought it was a great idea at the time. We built a couple of things, and it just didn't quite suit me right. And this design iteration kept happening during the grant period, and it's been really fun to build an experiment in the shop, and then go draw, and then take the drawings and build that again, and then the two things inform each other. The design now looks like this. It's a lot more stable structurally, and we figured out how to get everybody's butt pretty much close together so that you have feces and urine coming in several places, and this is very useful for building an in situ compost pile, which is what we are doing in Haiti. So, and the bag isn't shown here, but the same material that we're using for the structure we use for a bag underneath this that you can take out. And this stuff is ridiculously cheap, and it comes in big pieces. So I have no seams. I don't have to sew anything together. There's no vinyl welding. All I'm doing is I get scissors and we cut. And if we need a piece that's bigger, we get another one. But we work it out so that we're not wasting material. Here's what they look like. These first couple ones were not quite where I wanted them. We're getting a little better at building them. I want to talk a little bit about compost. A lot of people know this, but I want to just point these things out. Carbon, which in our case is sugarcane to gas. It's an excellent source of carbon. There are many others that can be used, but this is what we've been using in Haiti. Of course, the nitrogen is the excreta and food refuse, and we're using all that. Oxygen, of course, you have to have, there's the interstitial space where you have oxygen, but then you also get it when you turn the compost, and I've become a big fan of turning compost. I didn't start out that way, but the more I thought about the problem of how does the air get to the center of the pile, I decided you've got to turn, and I think that's a good choice. You can also add water when you need to do that. Compost needs a lot of water, I'll tell you. It needs to be wetter than people think. Thermophilic microorganisms. They're already there, they just need to be encouraged. Think of your car in third gear at a stop sign. It's not going to work. You're not going to be able to get started. But think of trying to make a long trip in first gear. That's going to be a waste of time. So what happens is these thermophilic organisms are there when the temperature starts to come up. They wake up and they get in the game, and they get in the game in a serious way, and then the temperature really goes up. And it just struggles to get beyond a certain temperature. In Norway, they studied this, and 43C was as high as they could get on individual composting toilets. We're getting temperatures between 70 and 75 C. It's actually almost too hot. All right, so I want to talk about the guidelines are, it's 50 degrees C for a week. This is the WHO guidelines. With Ascaris lumbricoides, you need more than that, and there's an interesting division between the WHO guidelines and what we know about Ascaris, and so I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to skip through a little bit of this to stay on this theme. The hygienization part is for the safety for the people, and that's the users or the maintenance people or anybody involved. Compost maturation is for compost effectiveness in soil. Those two things really are different. My focus is always on, I want it hygienic. If we give fertilizer value and compost value later, that's great, but I want the sanitation covered first. I'm just going to point these out, and then I'm going to go on to the next slide. These are the guys I've been reading, and look how old some of these documents are. There's a great volume of information out there that talks about excreta. This problem's been around for a long time. The book that I'm currently focusing on the most is Scott's book, which is actually both Winfield and Scott's work. And this is the graph I want to show you. Look at the date, first of all. This is 1939. This was work done in China. This is making compost piles with a very specific way that they do it, and they've documented it in the books. And what you find, and this is for Ascaris, okay? They're not looking at E. coli, they're not looking at a lot of the common parameters. They're looking at the granddaddy of them all, Ascaris lumbricoides. And as you can see, by the fourth term, they're gone, okay? So that's 36 days in. Now, I have some colleagues that talk about a year or 2 years compost time to make sure that it's hygienic. In Haiti, we don't have that much time or that much space. And as I look at these old documents, I want to re-show everybody that this is what these guys did in 1939, and they're showing that in 36 days, by the fourth turn, you're at basically zero. And as you can see, the temperature spikes, they're getting above 60 pretty consistently there. We're getting above 70 in Haiti in the tropics using sugarcane to gas. So I think that it's really important that we reconsider composting as a very viable option. It's super low tech. Well, the tech is all built in, I should say. But it's ridiculously inexpensive to do this compared to some of the other more high-tech things. How are we on time? Okay. So this graph, and there's other information like this that in these old documents, and I think I want to be able to look at, I want to basically go and reprove all this stuff to all the stakeholders now and say, this you know, we're gonna prove that these guys were right, and we'll do all the laborious testing to show this. And I want Ascaris to be what I'm going after, because the other, I mean, cholera dies at 45C. I mean, the things that are getting a lot of attention actually die off fairly quickly as temperature goes up. But Ascaris, which is not necessarily deadly, but extremely bad in a lot of other ways, is really hard to get rid of. So our results so far, we've been getting, we did experiments all summer as we were building the toilets, kind of at the same time. We were getting 71, regularly hitting 65. We were turning when the temperature got high, which was every couple of days. It drops, you water it, it drops to ambient, shoots right back up. And that lets you know that microorganism population is happy to get some air and water, and they just get right back to work. And after several turns, everything gets exposed. I mean, I know there's some controversy about that, but we're turning like 5 times. And following what Scott and Winfield show, I believe that's a good way to do this. This slide was snuck in. It's kind of, we've already covered all this. That was our shop and our little area where we were building the toilets. And we experimented with cow manure and the gas, and then also with human excreta and the gas. We had some bucket latrines that we used for that purpose, because we were building the toilets at the same time. This is after Tropical Storm Isaac. As you can see, the toilet blocks are still standing. The winds were very high. The trees, like I mentioned, were lost. But the individual users, or the families that are using the toilets, are maintaining these. And you can see it's quite clean. And the toilets, they stayed dry through the storm, so we were happy about that. Here's just another view. So the users are adding the gas, and that's all. The family maintains the toilet cubicle the way you would any bathroom. Just keep it clean. We don't want anybody to have to become a microbiologist to use this toilet. That's not the idea. There is paid workers that maintain the system, the overall system, and that's derived from the families are happy to pay 100 foods for this service. And this is in a very poor area. They like these toilets enough that they say, yes, we will pay that. So it's a private toilet in a way, but it's sort of public in a way as well, because you can't get private toilets in every house in City Soleil. It's just not going to happen as far as I can see. This is just some thoughts about, I was just going to show you that the cost for this fabric is really cheap. I can do, with 2 billboards, I can build the whole 5 array. So lumber is the only other significant cost. So that's basically it. That's what they look like when we were building them. The fabric gets wrapped around, and that's our little door hinge mechanism that we made. I didn't get into this part, but this poster was made by the people after my colleague Hannah had done some awareness raising, and this, if you read the caption there, this was them saying, hey guys, let's not shit in the open anymore. And they did this on their own, and we had a big set of plays and theater troupe that they did, that they performed for the community. So that's, I think I can wrap it up there. Please, let's have some questions, I guess.